Several analysts and investors predicted the 2024 housing crash, and although these predictions seem unstable, there's a chance that a single line will cause the 2024 housing crash. But how? For an uninterrupted span of 41 months, housing prices in the United States surged, commencing a remarkable streak just before the events of 2020 unfolded. This surge transformed the landscape into a nightmare for buyers, as the market relentlessly penalized them while rewarding speculators. From February 2019 to June 2022, national prices, as per the Case-Shiller Index, soared by an astounding 51%, marking an unprecedented surge in property values that reshaped conventional wisdom about real estate. The situation in cities like Seattle was terrible, with values skyrocketing by over 100% within the same time frame. During this era of remarkable expansion, caused mainly by greed and speculation, millions of Americans began questioning the market's stability. While evidence can be dissected from multiple angles endlessly, there's one chart that captures the narrative like no other: the Case-Shiller Index, dissected by year-over-year change. This infamous chart, tracing national prices back to 1987, unveils the essence of real estate in America. Each point on this graph signifies how much higher or lower home prices were compared to the preceding year. For example, in December 1997, prices soared to approximately 4% higher than in December 1996. This chart is unique because it narrates the market's 35-year history, highlighting 5 recurring phases. The first phase marked the collapse of the early 90s, a period characterized by plummeting home values. This was the notorious regional crash, often dubbed the hidden crash, where markets like LA saw declines of up to 25%. Concurrently, the U.S. grappled with a minor recession, culminating around January 1992. Subsequently, the market entered its golden age, basking in 13 years of steady growth as the economy flourished and home prices soared. However, the early 2000s ushered in an era of greed as speculation flooded the real estate sector. Speculators, investors, loan officers, agents, and builders all clambered onto a gravy train that had been generating wealth for over a decade. This period witnessed the formation of a colossal bubble characterized by astronomical leaps in value that raised nationwide concerns. By September 2005, the train derailed, leading to a prolonged crash, which endured until May 2012. Termed the Big One, or the Great Financial Crisis, this 7-year ordeal saw real estate fall out of favor as investors shunned the market. From 2012 to approximately April 2022, the market experienced a great recovery, akin to the early 90s resurgence. Home prices gradually ascended, optimism surged, and more individuals hopped aboard the bandwagon. Speculators, investors, loan officers, agents, and even social media trends championed real estate as a surefire route to riches. However, propelled by the events of March 2020, the market shifted into high gear, with price growth skyrocketing to unprecedented levels. At one juncture, year-over-year growth peaked at 20.7%, inducing a sentiment where buying a house meant instant wealth. From distressed properties to luxury estates, every asset transformed into a lucrative venture, regardless of location, from Columbus to San Francisco. However, this unchecked ascent came to an abrupt halt in May 2022. In that pivotal month, the market encountered its first roadblock. The decline, which commenced in May 2022, saw year-over-year growth veer sharply downward. Following 7 consecutive months of decline, experts began pondering whether this signaled a new phase in the market, perhaps another crash. The looming question on everyone's mind is how a scenario bearing a striking resemblance to past crashes might not culminate in a similar outcome. It's a universally acknowledged truth in economics that everything operates in cycles. Presently, we appear to be navigating a transition phase akin to the late 2005 period. Historically, these lengthy cycles have adhered to a familiar pattern: a crash, succeeded by a gradual recovery, then a resurgence of greed, leading back to another crash. This cyclical nature has often been exacerbated by various forms of leverage. However, many contend that this time is different, citing inventory as the primary argument. According to this perspective, there simply aren't enough homes on the market to trigger declines akin to those witnessed in 2008. The bullish narrative emphasizes that following the demand shock of 2020, the scarcity of available properties prevents a substantial drop in prices. Additionally, improved lending standards and a large portion of homeowners benefiting from mortgage rates below 3% suggests that most individuals are unlikely to sell anytime soon. When examining national statistics, they indeed indicate a low inventory situation, although with a twist. Inventory is low, but swiftly on the rise. In 2023, while the National Case-Shiller Index indicated a decline, many cities showed prices holding steady, barely deviating from the highs of 2022. Notably, these resilient cities are predominantly situated along the East Coast and in the Midwest. A look at nationwide price graphs reveals that drops have already begun on the West Coast, while the East and Midwest remain relatively fine. This disparity paints a tale of two sides, East versus West. The West Coast had witnessed a surge in inventory with a decrease of over 34% since January 2020, whereas the East Coast has experienced a decline of over 63% within the same period. Such a significant divergence isn't adequately captured in a national average. Typically, these figures tend to mirror each other closely, with deviations being rare occurrences. However, when divergence does manifest, the East Coast eventually catches up to the West Coast, as evidenced in 2018 and 2019, when West Coast inventory outstripped the East by nearly 20%. The inventory surge, prominent in hyped-up West Coast cities, may gradually spread to the rest of the country. As the East Coast follows suit, we'll witness a convergence of inventory levels. If the West Coast maintains this trajectory from 2022, we can anticipate inventory in the West surpassing 2020 levels, possibly even exceeding pre-pandemic levels. Presently, inventory levels on both coasts may appear to be decreasing, but this is mainly attributable to seasonal fluctuations. The actual test lies ahead in the months following April, traditionally a period when inventory begins to rise. In April 2022, the West Coast witnessed a notable 9% increase in active listings, whereas the East Coast experienced only a 1% uptick. If April's figures reflect a substantial increase in inventory, prices will likely continue to decline, marking the onset of the next phase of the crash. If there is a new development, trust that you will be the first to find out on this channel. So, don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss out on anything. Feel free to drop your comments below, share your thoughts, and let us know what topics you'd like us to explore next. Thanks for watching.